Hi, I'm Dave Atkinson, and welcome to Life on the Straight. Please take a moment to listen to the song My Caregiver. It is now available on music stores and streaming services, including iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, and many others. I've also placed the music video under my Creative Projects playlist. This is part 3 of the story behind the song.
A month spent in the city, a cancer hotel vacation.
I can't overstate how much we appreciated the SCCA House, which is now called the Behnke Family House. It is a 6-story structure with 80 rooms, along with a multi-story underground parking garage. There are more rooms than parking spots, so if you are only staying for a day or so, they may not have a spot, although other paid parking is nearby. When a spot becomes available, they provide you with a key fob to open and close the rolling chain garage door. The rooms are in 3 sizes: a patient suite that sleeps 2, a patient and caregiver suite that sleeps 3, and a patient and family suite that sleeps 5. During our numerous stays, we alternated between the middle and the high-end choice, as the patient and family suite had a better bathroom with a roll-in shower. Many of our rooms had good views of the downtown Seattle area, which at the time was under a state of constant new construction. I'm not sure what they charge today, but when we were there, the rates were just a fraction of what other hotels in the city would charge. They are also exempt from Seattle's hotel tax, and if you scored a parking spot, there was no additional fee. For long-term patients, you could forward your mail into your own mailbox inside. They had a huge communal kitchen with a wall of shared fridges and freezers, plus a large pantry where residents could help themselves to whatever was inside. There was also a sizable outdoor patio with several gas grills to cook with. They have a large laundry room, a rooftop deck with a 360-degree view of Seattle, plus other shared recreation and meeting spaces. A store for cancer patients was across the lobby from the front desk, featuring wigs, special undergarments such as compression socks, plus canes and more. Now, if you were wearing any kind of fragrance, cologne or perfume, you could not go any further than the front desk. Cancer patients often have a difficult time with smells. That's why they had the large communal kitchens, as the rooms only had a small fridge and microwave. Because cancer patients have compromised immune systems, the building was designed with a high level of infection control. Most important, they were a stop on the SCCA's shuttle service, which would take patients between Harborview Medical Center, the University of Washington Medical Center, and the SCCA Clinic and another patient hotel called the Pete Gross House. On May 29th, we checked in to the SCCA House. We would not depart until July 7th. On the 30th, we took the shuttle over to the University of Washington Medical Center for a radiation simulation session. More x-rays, more CT scans, and the techs replaced my permanent ink marks on my leg with tattoos, my first ever. They had me lay back in my custom blue bead bag mold, and we went through how the procedure would play out each day. Before entering into the radiation room, I had to completely disrobe except for a gown and a special elastic leg band. I don't know how to put this without getting too personal, but let's just say that the junkyard was right up against the radiation target area, and I needed to use the elastic band to put a bit more distance between the two. Of course, like this entire ride so far, Amy was there with me, helping to adjust the band.
Day by day and week by week, constant radiation.
As one's radiation treatment moves forward, the tumors change in size. Radiation damages all of the cells that it touches, but while healthy cells can repair themselves, cancer cells don't have that ability. The cancer cells explode like popcorn kernels, and day by day, the tumor grows larger, pushing out against your skin. In short, it hurts like hell. Plus, my leg felt like it was sunburned and getting more sunburned by the day. When you first lay down on the table that the radiation machine rotates around, the machinery also includes kind of a mini CT scanner. A scan gets done first, and then the results are computed and compared with your previous session, and the table makes micro adjustments to better align you for that day's session. Then the techs all leave via the door that is several inches thick, and it is just you and the machinery. There is a monitor on the wall that tells you when the radiation is being released. The noise is hard to describe, a little like some sort of ray gun from a science fiction movie. You have to stay perfectly still. Probably a half hour later, it is done. There are 2 waiting rooms, the big one right when you enter into the clinic area, and a smaller one just outside of the radiation machines. In the hallway next to the smaller waiting room were rolling racks of custom-sized blue beanbag molds for each patient. During our stay, we saw things that still haunt my thoughts. One day, my treatment was delayed because a little girl, just a few years old, was on her way. They had to sedate her first so that she didn't move during treatment. And as the stretcher came around the corner with a little bald girl asleep but clutching her teddy bear, it was absolutely heartbreaking. Excuse me. Another time, there was a somber-looking, morbidly obese woman in a small waiting area all by herself. I had a hard enough time climbing up on the table and getting situated in my mold. I couldn't imagine how hard that must have been for her. We saw a woman out in the main waiting area with her mouth area all surgically deformed and biting into a black rubber ball. There was another man with part of his skull missing. As the radiation treatments progressed, the pain in my leg increased. Riding the shuttle between the SCCA House and the University of Washington Medical Center became nearly intolerable, as the width of the shuttle meant that it couldn't maneuver around the bumps, manhole covers, and potholes that the roads dished out in spades. Every little bump was agony. Most of the time, Amy and I could sit next to each other on the shuttle, but there were several trips where it was crowded and we were separated or Amy had to stand. I talked to a few cancer patients that had it much worse than me. I remember one very skinny man from Eastern Washington who had been coming back to the SCCA for several years now as his cancer kept returning. He was certain that this time around it was his last rodeo. We also met a woman and her husband, both who had worked in the orchards in central Washington. They questioned if constant exposure to the pesticides and fungicides sprayed on the trees had anything to do with their cancer, as many of their friends worked the orchards were also battling cancer. She was having a bone marrow procedure where they had to drill into her pelvic bone, and she said that the pain was almost unbearable. After a few weeks of riding the shuttle, I chose to drive our car instead. It had better suspension, and I could miss many of the roadway obstacles. Driving didn't come without a cost, and that was trying to find a parking space at the hospital. Most of the time we found a spot in the adjacent parking garage, but a few times we had to park in the other garage across the street and then take a long underground tunnel and elevator up to the sidewalk where we would enter using the main entrance. When I wrote the song My Caregiver, this is where my mind went as far as Amy is concerned. Don't get me wrong, everything leading up to this point was immeasurably better due to her presence. But now that she was riding the elevator to different floors in order to fetch me a wheelchair, or she was getting groceries and fixing our meals, or she was checking with other friends that were looking out for our home, or she was getting my meds, or taking care of our laundry, or driving down to Starbucks to fetch me a mocha, or 100 other little things that I'm sure she did behind the scenes. Mostly she was just there with me. On June 14th, I had my second immunotherapy infusion. Like the first infusion, I had a bit of a reaction and stayed an extra hour to let it pass. I was also noticing that my left foot area was beginning to feel numb, which would turn out to be a game changer.